Shalom. So sorry I was a bit late. Not that anybody's watching. Okay. Um, okay. So we are continuing. Hopefully everybody can hear me. We are continuing on Psalm 119, verse 25. So that's Dalit. So um, Psalm 119 is an eightfold acrostic. So um, each verse of an acrostic um, Hebrew poem starts with a subsequent letter of the alphabet, Aleph, Bet, Gimel, right? And 119 is an eightfold. So actually, the first eight start with Aleph, the next eight start with Bet. So 25 through 32 start with Dalet. Okay. New King James Version. My soul clings to the dust. Revive me according to your word. NIV. I am laid low in the dust. Preserve my life according to your word. Translation. My soul clung to the dust. Revive me according to your word. Let me just. She's off. Rashi is not on. Okay. There's no Rashi on 25. Okay. Correct one. There we go. Davka la'afar nafshi hayeni kidvarecha. So, davka, the roots there, dalet bet kuf, is the same one used in Genesis, where it says that a man shall leave his mother and father and cling to his wife. So, Davkat le'afar. Apparently, there is an article in the vocalization there, but it's le'afar because ayin is a guttural, and it just changes the way the vocalization works in more complicated ways than I've actually ever studied. So nafshi, nefesh, is considered the lowest form of the the lowest level of the soul, and it is feminine, and that's why davka is in the feminine here. Chayeni, so revive me, cause me to live, kidvarecha, according to your word. Next verse 26. I have declared my ways, and you answered me. Teach me your statutes. I gave an account of my ways, and you answered me. Teach me your decrees. I told you my ways, and you answered me. Teach me your statutes. So Rashi's saying that I explained my sins. Darachai siparti v'ta'aneni lamdeni ukecha. So darachai, my ways, my roads, but how I do things, I think is the proper translation here. Siparti, so lesaper is to give an account, narrative. Sefer is a book. Sipur is a story. Yeah, and mispar is a number. So siparti va ta'aneni, and you answered me. Landeni chukecha, teach me. Usually I translate chok as statutes. So these are, in Judaism, we say there are three categories of mitzvot, and chukim are the ones which no understandable reason was given for them. Sure. Fine. Yeah. So teach me your statutes. Okay. Next verse 27. Make me understand the way of your precepts, so shall I meditate on your wonderful works. Cause me to understand the way of your precepts, that I may meditate on your wonderful deeds. Okay. Make me understand your precepts, and I shall speak of your wonders. Interesting. So the Hebrew is Derech pikudecha havineni va'asicha beniflotecha. Interesting. Okay, so derech is same as the word way, which we had before. Pikudim, so this root He Kuf Dalet is the one that's used regarding visiting iniquities to the third and fourth generation in the Ten Commandments. It's also the one that's used regarding Sarah, where it says God remembered Sarah. Tafkid is an assignment. So if you leave something with somebody for them to keep, you are poked. You assign that to them. Precepts. Not sure I would use the word precepts because, frankly, I'm not very sure what precepts mean in English. But yeah, not exactly sure. Havineni, so Havana. So you may be aware of the word mavin in maven, right? Is an English word that comes from the Yiddish, which is somebody who understands. Bina is usually translated as understanding. It is related to the root to build, and obviously it's one of the three intellectual sefirot in the Kabbalah. So havineni, cause me to understand. It is in the hefil, and it is also in the command form. Ve'asicha. So siach is an interesting word. They're translating as meditate. Usually I translate siach actually as like chatter. Certainly in Rabbinic Hebrew, it ended up becoming more of superfluous speaking, not necessarily, important things that you are speaking about. Bet niflotecha. So, first of all, niflaot is written milui here, which is interesting. The word pele is often translated as wonder, or miracle. So a pele is something that's beyond understanding, right? So it's saying, teach me your ways, and I will speak about your wondrous works, your things which are beyond understanding. Niflaot. Verse 28. So my soul melts or drops from heaviness or grief. Strengthen me according to your word. My soul is weary with sorrow. Strengthen me according to your word. My soul drips with grief, and Rashi explains the word dalfa is drips. It is becoming less and less. Sustain me according to your words. See what the actual Hebrew here is. Dalfa nafshi mituga. Interesting. Kaimeni kidvarecha. Interesting. Okay, so this word dalaf, dalad lamed pei, I am not familiar with. Shows up 3 times in the Bible. Once in Job, once in Psalms here, and once in Ecclesiastes. To drip or drop, leak, weeps. I think dalaf in Aramaic. I may have seen it in places. Leaks because cracks are not mended. Interesting. That's how it's used in Ecclesiastes. Yeah, I mean it's one of those words that isn't used very often, and same thing with mituga from ah. So grief from yaga, yagon. From yaga? Yeah, I guess. I mean, this is obviously a verb with well, it is used 4 times in the Bible. One of these verbs with 2 weak radicals. So all you're left with is the gimel to work with. And those tend to be the most difficult ones. Yeah, I mean, yaga, how many times does yagon uses it? Shows up a lot. Yaga. Hoga. Yeah, sometimes the most difficult ones are the ones which have weak radicals, because then you could arguably say that there are other radicals it comes from. And this is a it's a difficult one because it's not a word that gets used a lot. It's not it's a root with only one solid strong radical. So I'm just gonna have to go with what they say, what Rashi says. Kaimeni, so lakum, kuf vav mem, is to stand or establish. Kaimeni, strengthen me, establish me, fortify me, stand me up, maybe. Kidvarecha, again, according to your word. We get a lot of devar in this psalm. Okay. Okay. Verse 29. Remove from me the way of lying, and grant me your law graciously. Keep me from deceitful ways, be gracious to me, and teach me your law. Chabad. Remove from me the way of falsehood, and favor me with your Torah. So derech sheker haser mimeni, vet toratecha choneni. So this is a construct of derech, which is way or manner, right? Sheker is the opposite of truth, emet and sheker, and so that's, I mean, that's shows up so many times. We've discussed it multiple times. So the way of sheker, the way of lying or deceit, or untruth, falsehood. Haser is it's the command to take off, remove, shave. Sur merav aset tov is the same root there. Flee from evil and do good. Right. That's one of the most famous ones. When the person who is declared unclean is saying he is Hameh, I believe that's where he said it says Suru Suru, right? Get away, get away. So same root there. So Haser mimeni, remove from me. Yeah, I think that's right. Vetoratecha choneni. So chonen, right, is to have compassion, to show favor, be gracious. Yeah. One of the things we say is that God is Hanun Verahum. So same root here. So Toratecha choneni, I would probably even translate this as gift me your Torah. Yeah. Okay. Next verse 30. I have chosen the way of truth. Your judgment I have laid before me. I have chosen the way of faithfulness. I have set my heart on your laws. Abad. I chose the way of faith. Your judgments I have set before me. Not gonna do all the Rashis as much as I want to. Derech emuna bacharti, mishpatecha shiviti. Interesting. So again, derech seems. How many times is derech the first? It's the first word of verse 26, 27, 29, now 30, and then 32. So lots. Derech is the one that's being used over and over again. But derech emunah, so the path of emunah, the truth. I'm not sure emunah is translated truth. I mean, amen is, I believe, and it is a similar root, but way of truth. Why NKJV has truth? I have. Well, Rashi does say that it is. So I said I'm not going to do the Rashis. So Rashi says that your judgments I have set before me. I have applied myself to your judgments, and I clung to your testimony to choose the way of faith. Therefore, I ask, remove from me the way of falsehood. So Rashi's kind of saying that this is linked to the previous verse, but emunah pretty much always we translate as faith, and it is bemilui here. I would not translate this as truth. Bacharti, I have chosen. So livhor. Deuteronomy 30, it says, I have set before you life and death, and you shall choose life, right? Ubacharta b'chaim. Um, and in modern Hebrew, livchor includes things like to vote. Mishpatecha shiviti. So mishpat is the class of mitzvot, commandments, which we say are rational, and a person through their rational understanding can understand, right? In the third class, so we said statutes are the ones you don't necessarily understand. Mishpat team are the things you do understand, and then there are the mitzvot or otot, or sometimes referred to as eduyot, as testimonies, and these are things that are given to the Jewish people as indications that they have been set apart as God's special people. So this is mishpatecha. And shiviti, so most famously, there's the psalm, Shiviti Hashem lenegdi tamid, I have set God before me always, right? Shaveh means equal. To agree, be alike, resemble. Ava. Yeah, so Shiviti, I have set, I have laid, I have put before me. Yeah. Next verse. 31. I cling to your testimonies, O Lord, do not put me to shame. I hold fast to your statutes, Lord, do not let me be put to shame. But I clung to your testimonies, O Lord, put me not to shame. And the Hebrew is davakti be'edotecha havaya al tavisheni. So again, this is the same cling, right? Dovek, right? Which is a man clings to his wife. Be'edotecha, to your testimonies, right? So we said we had chukim, and then we had mishpatim, and now we have edot, right? So again, the three classes which show up, right? Your edot, and this is bemilui, written fully, if you're keeping track of that. Havaya, obviously the tetragrammaton. Al tevisheni. So the root is bet vav shin, which is to be ashamed, like, right? Boshet panim, bush. And the tevisheni is the hefil. It's the causative. So do not cause me to be ashamed, right? Do not put me to shame. Is a good way of translating it to me. I think. Yeah, tevisheni. And verse 32, which is the last Dalet verse, I will run the course of your commandments, for you shall enlarge my heart. I run in the path of your commands, for you have broadened my understanding. Abad. In the way of your commandments I shall run, for you will broaden my understanding. And the Hebrew, derech mitzvotecha arutz ki tarchiv libi. Interesting. So derech again, so now it's in a construct with mitzvotecha, which is the general way of referring to the commandments, most general way of referring to the commandments, but also we would say that one is sometimes referring solely to eduyot, right? Those testimonies. Our roots, I will run. It's pretty clear. It's in the imperfect to run. Resh Vav Tzadek. Ki tarchiv. So Rahav, you might recognize from the name Rahab. It means wide, right? The land of Israel is called Eretz Rehava, right? A wide land, as opposed to Egypt, which is a narrow land. Um, so it's in the causative, right? You will, because you will enlarge, you will make large, and then libi, my heart. Um, this is actually, I'm kind of um surprised, because oftentimes we talk about, not with het, but rekev, heart, a soft heart, but here it's rod heart. Interesting. And so there are two ways of spelling heart in Hebrew. One with either with one bet or with two bet, and levav, right? And generally we say that the second bet, if there's only one, it's talking about an unambiguous desire, where usually for good, right? Lev tahor, right? A pure heart, whereas lavav indicates sort of ambivalence, both your evil inclination and your inclination inclination together. So generally what we would say is that archiv libi is kind of saying, broaden my good intentions. I would more allegorically translate that. Okay, so that was Dalet, verse 33 for Hey. Teach me, O Lord, the way of your statutes, and I shall keep it to the end. Teach me, Lord, the way of your decrees, that I may follow it to the end, or follow it for its reward. God. Instruct me, O Lord, in the ways of your statutes, and I shall keep it at every step. Yeah, and so yeah, interesting. So horeni havaya derech chukecha ve'etzrena ekev. Interesting. Okay. So horeni is the root is Torah, right? To hora is to guide, right? And that's where the word Torah comes from. Um, so teach me, guide me, right? Horeni. And actually, it's also the same root as parent, right? Horim, our parents. But horeni, teach me. Havaya is the tetragrammaton. Derech chukecha, right? The way of your statutes, which we just spoke about. Ve'etzrena, interesting. Natsar. Keep. Oof. I'm I'm not so sure about that. Ve'etzrena. What does Rashi? I shall keep it in all its paths and the steps. So let's, so the constructor, let's do Netzer. And they're saying, they're saying it's the conjunctive imperfect, ve'etzrena. Oof. Of the call. Ensor. So where did the nun go? Or Etzor. So apparently, yeah. So apparently this does. I wonder where they get. Well, what you can do in Strong's is Etzor shows up once, Etzora shows up once, Etzorena is probably this one. I'm trying to see how many times the nun kind of titzer. So here titzereni or titzorenu, also the nun kind of disappears. Titzor, the nun kind of disappears. Ve'etzarcha. So I mean that's several times the nun is disappearing. So that's why. That must be why. Yitzarenahu, Yitzeru, Yitzeruni, Yitzor. Yeah, so apparently, I mean, nun is a weak radical, so apparently it's common for that nun to kind of of netzer to kind of disappear. It's Rena. And derech can be feminine or masculine, and here, so it's Rena. I think it's referring to derech in the feminine. And then the word ekev. So the word ekev comes from the same root. I mean, the name Yaakov, right? Jacob comes from the same root, which means heel, literally. And ekev can be result, can be the end, can be we actually also refer to the end times as ikvita the Mashiach, right? The heel of the times of the Messiah. It's Rena Ekev. I know what the words mean. I don't know how you translate them. Yeah. Not sure what to tell you. Verse 34. Give me understanding, and I shall keep your law. Indeed, I shall observe it with my whole heart. Give me understanding so that I may keep your law and obey it with all my heart. Instruct me, O Lord. Enable me to understand, and I shall keep your Torah, and I shall keep it wholeheartedly. Havineni ve'etzra Toratecha ve'eshmarena bechol lev. So havineni, like we had before, to understand, bina, right? Ve'etzra, again, so this is the same word. The nun is kind of, well, it's turning into that dagesh in the tzaddik there, I guess. Yeah. So netzor, to keep, again, Torah techa. Ve'eshmarena, so shamor is to guard, to keep, observe, yeah, shomer. Ve'eshmarena, right? And I will keep it bechol lev, with all heart, right? And yes, my heart is kind of implied there. Again, this is the singular heart, the less ambivalent heart that we just discussed. Okay, verse 35. Make me walk in the path of your commandments, for I delight in it. Direct me in the path of your commands, for there I find delight. God, lead me in the path of your commandments, for I desired it. Hadricheni, interesting. Hadricheni, interesting. B'netiv mitzvotecha, ki vo chafatzti. Interesting word usage here. So hadricheni. So we've been talking a lot about derech, but here it's in the hefil. It's in the causative, right? So it's saying, and the command form. So it's saying to God, guide me, right? Usually, so a madrich is actually a guide. If you ever go to Israel on vacation and you have a tour guide, it's madrich letayarim, I believe it is, in modern Hebrew. But a madrich is a guide. So hadricheni, right? Guide me. B'netiv. So netiv is it's one of the less common words for path. The way I remember it is there's that verse Darcheha Darche Noam V'Kol Netivoteha Shalom, right? Her ways are the ways of peaceness, of sweetness, and all of its paths are peace, right? Very famous verse. How many times does Nativ show? Quite a few, actually. 26 times. Obviously not as often as Derech or Rachov or one of the more common ones. Mitzvotecha, right? So Netiv is in the construct form with mitzvot, and mitzvotecha, your vote. Ki vo chafatzti. So chefetz is to desire. Can be delight, I guess. Also, a chefetz is actually just a thing, right? There's the famous verse, Mi ha'ish chofetz chaim, shomer lashono mira, right? Who is the man who desires life? The one who keeps his tongue from evil. And so that's chofetz, right? To want, to desire. I guess delight makes sense. Verse 36. Incline or cause me to long for my heart to your testimonies and not to covetousness. NIV, turn my heart toward your statutes and not toward selfish gain. Extend my heart to your testimonies and not to monetary gain. Okay? Hat libi el edotecha va'al el batza. Interesting. So hat, what always reminds me of is note or kisalma, right? God wears light like a covering, right? Hat, it's the command form of to set, I guess, stretch, spread out, extend, incline, bend. Again, because it has two weak radicals, basically everything other than the tet disappears when it's being used. Yeah. Yeah, so netiat ohel, to pitch a tent, to, yeah, is one of the ways it's used. And I mean, it is used a lot. It is definitely used a lot. So there's no question in my mind what it means. 213 times. So, but with used with the word heart. So yeah, how did they translate it? Verse 36, extend my heart. Oof. Incline my heart, cause me to long for, turn my heart. Yeah, yet libi. I never really imagined that word being used with heart. Yet libi. Set my heart probably is how I would translate it. And it's again it's lev with one bet. El is the preposition of the aleph. Edotecha, your testimonies, right? Like we said before, the al el batza, and not towards, again, the preposition with the aleph. Batza is not a common word. It is used more common than I thought. 22 times. Gain. So, the first time it's used in the Bible, in Genesis 37, is when the brothers of Joseph are talking about Joseph, and they say, "What profit is it for us to kill him?" But gain made by violence, unjust gain or profit. So the verb apparently is actually used even more times. Yeah, so this is actually used more times than I thought. Yeah. So, but verse 37. Turn away my eyes from looking at worthless things. Cause my eyes to pass away from, and revive me in your way. So with Masoretic text, Septuagint, and Vulgate, TG your words. I'm not even sure what TG is. The Targum. Interesting why they bring that manuscript, whatever it is, when the Septuagint, Masoretic text, and Vulgate all agree. Turn my eyes away from worthless things. Preserve my life according to your words. Two manuscripts of the Masoretic text and the Dead Sea Scroll. Most manuscripts of the Masoretic text, life in your way. Okay. So, see, I personally, I have a lot of problems with the idea that the Masoretic text has been corrupted of Psalms, just because people recite Psalms so much that, honestly, I think people would notice. There's just too many people. I mean, Psalm 119 may be one of the lesser memorized psalms, but they're just memorized so much that it's I would actually say it's harder for me to believe that the psalms have been corrupted than to believe that the five books of Moses may have some discrepancy. Okay, let's see what Chabad said. We are talking about 37. Turn away my eyes from seeing vanity. With your ways, sustain me. See what the Hebrew here is. Haver einai merot shav. Okay. Bedarchecha. Oh, so apparently the other manuscripts is Devarecha Chayeni. Derachecha Chayeni or Devarecha Chayeni. I guess you could believe there's a scribal error. They just look so much alike. Not sure they mean different things. Yeah, B'Darachecha Chayeni. I'm not sure it would make a difference. B, I have a hard time believing that the Masoretic texts that's most commonly used in those Jewish populations which say Psalms on a regular basis has been really corrupted. Anyway, so ha'aver, the root is ayin bet resh, which is the same root as Hebrew, right? To cross, to pass, right? So turn away makes sense. It's in the causative. Haver einai, my eyes, mirot, from seeing. The root is resh aleph hey, to see, and it's bemilui here, which I guess is interesting. Some people like to look at one or two Dead Sea fragments and use it to say a manuscript is wrong. They do it for easy take or various reasons, usually. Easy fame, yeah. So yeah, I think people sometimes put way too much emphasis on the various manuscripts and stuff. Honestly, it seems to me, especially when we're talking about Psalms, what people have been reciting forever. I know many women who have the entirety of Psalms completely memorized, and the idea that it's you could change a word even slightly and not have them notice is a little foreign to me. Okay. So yeah. So haver einai merot shav. So from seeing shav, worthless things. So this is the same word that's a little bit difficult in the Ten Commandments, right? It says, um, do not take my name in vain, right? And what exactly shav means there? Similar thing here, right? Same question, and I would translate it however you decided to translate it in the Ten Commandments. I would translate it the same way. Okay, bidarachecha chayeni, in your ways, cause me to live. I guess it could have been devarecha chayeni, according to in your words. So yeah, either way, it's the meaning is completely unchanged. Okay, next verse. Uh, 8. Establish your word to your servant who is devoted to fearing you. Fulfill your promise to your servant so that you may be feared. God. Fulfill for your servant your word that is for your fear. Not gonna do all the Rashis. Hakem la'avdecha imratecha, asher liratecha. Interesting. So hakem is the causative of the verb to raise, to stand up, to establish, oftentimes, right? Le'avdecha, for your servant, your slave, eved, right, is the root, which usually gets translated as servant because Hebraic slavery was nothing like the chattel slavery of Roman law. Imratecha, so your sayings, your word. So, I mean, it's like devarecha, but it's imra. It's aleph mem resh, right? The root is the less intense way of speaking. Imratecha, not. I mean, just very using a lot of synonyms here. I think. Asher liratecha. Now that's really interesting how you want to translate that. Asher is the pronoun relative, which is, and it's kind of being used here as the present tense of the verb to be. Le yiratecha, for your fear, for fear of you, awe of you, yira. I usually use the word awe because it can be awesome and awful. Asher liratecha, for your awe, I guess, right? Yirat Hashem, the awe of God, or the fear of God, right? Reshit Chochma Yirat Havaya. The beginning of wisdom is awe of God. So Leiratecha. Okay. Verse 39. Turn away my reproach which I dread, for your judgments are good. Take away the disgrace I dread, for your laws are good. Remove my disgrace which I feared, for your judgments are good. And there are Rashis here, which we are going to try to not do. Ha'aver cherfati asher yagorti ki mishpatecha tovim. Interesting. So ha'aver, again, like we had before, it's this root of the word Hebrew, to cross, to pass, right? This the command of the causative, right? To make, go away, right? Cherfati, so cherfa is embarrassment, reproach, from haraf, to reproach. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can use your concordance. Used 41 times in the Bible. That's quite a few times. Cherfati asher yagorti. So grar, yagar, to be afraid. Used 5 times in the Bible. Yeah. Yagarti mipnei ha'af. Deuteronomy 9:9. I thought the root was Gimel Resh Resh, but I might be thinking of something. Yeah, Asher Yagarti, which I dread, which I fear. Ki mishpatecha tovim, because your judgments are good. Which is kind of interesting that it's saying, because your judgments are good, turn away my reproach, which not exactly sure why the key here. I don't see the relevance of the second part of the sentence to the first. And again, I mean, this is a very long poem. So keep on going. Verse 40, behold, I long for your precepts. Revive me in your righteousness. How I long for your precepts. In your righteousness, preserve my life. But, behold, I longed for your precepts. With your righteousness, sustain me. Hine ta'avti lepikudecha bitzidkatecha chayeni. So hine is the interjection, oftentimes translated as behold. Lo, look, right? Hine ta'avti, so te'avon is long. In modern Hebrew, you say when somebody's eating, you say bete'avon, or is that with the ayin? Am I thinking of the one with the ayin? I may be thinking of the one with ayin. Ha'ava. No, I think this is right. With let me check. I mean, what am I trying to say? Betavon, enjoy. By bon appetit. Yeah. I don't know my French very well. Yeah, it's tough aleph bet. Beteavon. Yeah. So it is the same word. Ta'ava can sometimes be considered too much of desire in the Hebrew, especially in rabbinic Hebrew. But obviously here it's a good thing. Li pikudecha, so pakad, like we said before, is an assignment. And again, they're doing precept, right? Betzidkatecha, so in your tzedakah, which literally means righteousness. We also, I mean, it has come to mean charity, but it actually means righteousness. So bitzidkatecha, in your righteousness, chayeni, cause me to live, revive me. Okay, 41. Vav, we are on the Vavs already. Let your mercies come also to me, O Lord, your salvation according to your word. May your unfailing love come to me, Lord, your salvation according to your promise. And may your acts of kindness befall me, O Lord, your salvation according to your word. V'yuvuni, written bechisaron. I would have expected some vavs in there. V'yuvuni, chasadecha, havaya teshuatecha, imratecha. Interesting. So, v'yuvuni is the root is bet vav aleph, to come. Also, let me come. Bring me to is probably how I would translate it. I'm kind of surprised at the way it is. Well, it is irregular, but it's also the Yivauni. Um, yeah, bring me to chasadecha, your chesed, your loving kindness, your mercies. Yeah, Havaya, the Tetragrammaton. Teshuatecha keimratecha. Now that's what's interesting. So teshuatecha, your salvation, keimratecha, according to your word, is according to your word. Yeah, teshuatecha. Again, it's one of these things. I know what all these words mean. Don't know how to translate them. Teshuatecha keimratecha. Your teshua, your salvation, is like your imra, like your words. This is with Amar, the less intensive way of speaking. Don't know how to translate it. I really don't know how I would translate that. Okay, next verse. So shall I have an answer for him who reproaches me or taunts me, for I trust in your word. Then I can answer anyone who taunts me, for I trust in your word. And I shall answer a word to those who disgrace me, for I trusted in your word. Ve'eneh chorfi davar ki batachti b'dvarecha. So ve'eneh, right? So the root is ayin nun hey, to answer, like we had at the beginning, va'aneni, right? You answered me. Chorfi, right? We had cheref, which was reproach. Davar. So chorfi davar is somebody who reproaches me about something, right? So I will answer somebody who reproaches me about a thing. Interesting. And chorfi is written bechisaron, which kind of expected a vav there, but davar. Ki batachti bidvarecha, for I trusted, right? Batach, bitachon, havtacha, right? Insurance is called bitachon in modern Hebrew. Yeah, batachti. I have trusted. I trust bidvarecha. In your word, and here it's davar. We're saying your word a lot, and it's lots of different ways of saying word. 43. And I take not the word of truth for utterly out of my mouth, for I hoped in your ordinances. Never take your word of truth from my mouth, for I have put my hope in your laws. And do not take out utterly from my mouth a word of truth, because I hoped for your words. What the Hebrew is. Va'al tatzel mipi davar emet ad me'od ki lemishpatecha yichalti. Interesting. Okay. Va'al, do not. Tatzel. So, Hatzalah is to deliver, right? So do not deliver, take away, I guess. Yeah, take away. Osher, sure. Okay. Yeah, I guess in 31 again, it's I always considered it a good taking away, like delivered. I mean, this is used a lot of times in the Bible, 213 times. But the word hatzalah, I always thought of as a good taking away, but I guess it doesn't have to be. Ba'al tatzel mipi davar emet, from my mouth, and then davar emet is in the construct form, right? The word of truth, right? So don't take the word of truth out of my mouth. Ad me'od, too much. I would probably translate that, which is, this is weird phrasing. Do not deliver from my mouth the word of truth, ad me'od, too much or utterly. Yeah. Ki lemishpatecha yichalti. Yachal, to wait. So they're saying the root is yud chet lamed, which I understand. I can agree with. I just wasn't sure which root. I mean, you can say it's yud chet lamed. That makes sense. Yachalti would be yud chet lamed. Yeah, alti. I have hoped, I have waited. Wondering what Rashi said. So Tatzel is like in Genesis 31, utter ad me'od. In all my instructions, and in all my good, that I should not stumble over them. Ad me'od. I'm kind of, I don't exactly understand that word ad me'od there, right? Those words, too much or utterly. Yeah, I guess everybody's translating it as utterly. Makes sense, I guess. Okay, 44. So shall I keep your law continually forever and ever? I will always obey your law forever and ever. And I shall keep your Torah constantly forever and ever. Ve'eshmara Toratecha tamid le'olam va'ed. Yes, so I understand why they had to say forever and ever. So eshmara, again, to keep, right? This is the shomer, right? To guard. So I will keep your Torah, right? Toratecha tamid, always. Tamid, like the ner tamid in a synagogue is the light that is left on always, right? So the eternal light. So tamid, always. Le'olam va'ed. So le'olam literally means to the world, but le'olam means continually or forever and ever. Va'ed, right? Le'olam va'ed is, it's a stressing on the le'olam. So I mean, honestly, I have to say, for the Christians who say that the law has been fulfilled, right? Dude, like how much more emphatic does a Bible verse have to be, right? Ve'eshmara Toratecha tamid le'olam va'ed. So if God really wanted to say forever and ever and ever and ever, how would he do that? So let's keep on going. 45. And I will walk at a liberty, or in a wide place, for I seek your precepts. Again, the word precepts. So must be pegudim again. 45. I will walk about in freedom, for I have sought out your precepts. and I shall walk in widely accepted ways, for I sought your precepts. Ve'et halcha barchava hi pikudecha darashti. Interesting. So, the root is holech, right? To walk or to go, but it's in the reflexive, which it's not always, but sometimes it is. There's that part where um, God was mithalech, right? Was walking in the gardens, right? I believe that one's also in the reflexive. Yeah. Havaya Elokim mithalech began l'ruach. Genesis 3:8 is the one I was thinking of. It's also in the reflexive form there. Bar rechava. So Rachav, like we said, is wide as opposed to dire straits, right? This juxtaposition of wide and unwide is it's a common one. Sorry, I will be right back. Okay. So Berchava is in wideness, right? Easiness. I understand translating it as liberty. Ki pikudecha, because again, pikud, right, is they keep on translating it as precepts. Darashti. I have so lidrosh, right, is to seek out, like we also say like drasha, like midrash, right, to expound upon. To seek, okay. Yeah. Va'adabra be'edotecha. And there are a lot of these hays at the end of words here, which make them cohortive, like et halcha, right? The cohortive hay, if you've been paying attention to that here, va'adabra, right, as opposed to adaber, right? Be'edotecha, in your testimonies, neged melachim. So neged can be in front of or opposed to, right? So in front of kings, before kings, against kings, velo evosh, and I will not be ashamed, right? Yeah, lo evosh. I mean, it's pretty clear. I mean, I'm just wondering this word, right? Neged melachim, in front of kings, but I will not be a. Well, I mean it's a vav, but I would be tempted to translate this vav as but. Yeah. 27. Ve'eshta'asha'a b'mitzvotecha asher ahavti. So this hard to say word is so this is a very rare thing we've had before, right? Is there are this is a verb in the rare stem mitpalpel, when you have a 2-letter root which repeats itself. And what happens is in the hitpael, in the reflexive form, if the peha poal, right, if the first root is a shin, then they get transposed, and that's how you end up with the Shah. Sha'shuim is delights, right? And so I will delight myself. I will be delighted b'mitzvotecha, in your commandments, asher ahavti, which I love, right? Ahavti, pretty simple, right? Ahava is love. And last verse, 48. My hands also I will lift up to your commandments, which I love, and I will meditate on your statutes. I reach out for your commands, which I love, then that I may meditate on your decree. And I shall lift up my palms to your commandments, which I love, and I shall converse about your statutes. Hebrews. Ve'esa chapai el mitzvotecha asher ahavti va'asicha bechukecha. So Nesiat Kapayim is when, so actually that we usually refer to the priestly blessing as Nesiat Kapayim, to raise your hands. So when they bless, they do that. I will raise my kaf is literally your palms, right? But I will raise my hands to your commandments. How did they translate it? I shall lift up my palms to your commandments. Interesting. My hands, I reach out for your commands. Yeah. Asa means to raise, right? I will raise. Kapai el mitzvotecha, to your mitzvot. Asher ahavti, which I love, again, like we just had. Va'asicha bechukecha, and I will speak, meditate. I usually actually translate it as, what did I say before? Chatter, right? It's another way of talking, but a lighter talking, especially in later Hebrew. Bechukecha, in your statute. Okay, so if there are any questions, please do put them in the chat. Today was kind of, I'm glad it was short because I started a little late, and I don't have everything exactly up to par. Let's say Tzefania 3:9. Ki az epoch el amim safar berra likro chulam b'shem havaya le'ovdo shchem echad. For then I will restore or turn over to the people safar berra, a pure language, winnowed language. I usually try likro chulam, so that all of them may call b'shem havaya, in the name of the Tetragrammaton. Le'ovdo, to serve him, shchem echad, with one shoulder together. Yep. I will be right back. I will hang around probably at least until 8. In case anybody has questions or anything like that, and I have stuff so I will be around. I'll be back. Okay. 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 I am